Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Good morning, everybody. It is Cowboy, and we're just a minute or two early. It's Thursday, the 24th, and the unemployment data is going to come out for the U.S. So I'm going to zoom in on the chart here. What we're talking about today is whether or not we can rely on USDJPY, the Forex pair, to possibly predict Bitcoin moves. And that's an interesting subject. It also may apply to NASDAQ. So here it is right here. Looks like it wants to kind of even out and possibly move up, but let's go ahead and jump to a lower time frame to see just how the data coming out affects everything today. So I'm going to go to the 1 minute chart. Actually, let's make it the 5 minute chart. Look at the 5 minute chart. We'll see how the unemployment data affects the price. Now, how does this usually work? Now, things are starting to get a little bit wonky. Things are changing. It used to be that the dollar moved in the opposite direction to stocks in particular. But what's interesting is that I've seen a couple of things happen, a couple of data come out that are supposed to be dollar strong, which stocks weak, and yet stocks moved with the dollar yesterday. So the clock is ticking, and this data is going to come out any moment. The general trend right here on the low time frame for USDJPY is a little bearish, right? So we're going to see if this continues right now, if it either pops down with the news or up. We'll take a look what the news says, and then we're going to go ahead and back out and see what's going on here. It looks like we might have a bit of a problem with the screen capture. Give me just a moment. Might have to restart some things here. Let's see here. Okay, there, had to restart the capture there. Okay, it looks like the data may be out. Yep, there it is. And it looks like it's going to move down. Yep, it's going to push down a little bit. Now, what this probably means, no, maybe it's just a nothing data, a nothing burger. Let's see what happens. Oh, see, it's pushing up a bit here. Yeah, okay, so what this would indicate is that the dollar is getting weaker according to the unemployment data usually. Like if this was last year, I'd say, okay, the unemployment numbers are high, so the dollar is weaker. So the inflation has been kind of tamped down, and the wisdom is that, oh, okay, they may cut rates in the near future. So the, no, is that right? No, I'm totally backwards on that. Okay, this is dollar strong news. Unemployment numbers low, meaning that economy still strong, meaning that holding rates up high hasn't weakened the economy enough to tamp down on inflation. That's what this reaction should mean, but in a weak way, because we're not seeing a lot of movement. So I'm willing to bet that if we flip over to the unemployment data screen over on Forex Factory, that it's probably not much of a difference compared to what the estimate was. Let's see here. Unemployment claims dead nuts on the estimate. Wow, did I call that or what? The estimate was 222,000. The actual amount was 222,000. So there you go. All right, so it looks like, see, this is how you can sort of read things. Now, these things are a bit hard to predict, but now that you know it's kind of a nothing burger, and now that the money that was kind of waiting on the sidelines is jumping into the market, it's actually going along with this short-term uptrend, this 5 minute chart uptrend, right? You see how you have these higher lows, right? Really like this. So it's almost an uptrend. It just has to break this top right here to be an uptrend. So what we'll do is we'll back out, right? And we'll see how the algos look. And definitely there is a push upward here. It's a high time frame kind of push upward. And the USDJPY tends to move in the same direction as stocks, and it seems to be predicting Bitcoin to a degree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flash over out of this complex screen to a more simple screen. So give me just a moment. Okay, so we're going to look at the 30-minute chart, and we're going to compare this to the NASDAQ and to Bitcoin. Okay. I think over time we'll notice something with Bitcoin, but we'll just go ahead and add it on the 30-minute chart, which is a short-term chart. And you can see there is a definite correlation. The question is which one moves first? And you see a little bit of kind of a switch here where Bitcoin moved first. Now, there is a bit of Bitcoin bullishness going on. As I zoom out here, you can see, though, that the general trend seems to be intact here, right? The general trend. They're moving down together. And then you have a divergence here because Bitcoin did have a lot of bullishness based on where it was, right? These things do decouple from time to time. But if I zoom out a little bit, let's go ahead and take a look maybe like, yeah, you can see it here. Pretty clear correlation. And in this case, the JPY is having sharper moves, right? A little bit sharper move here. They both got real calm on Friday because everything got calm on Friday. But if you back out, you can see here that in this particular case, JPY made a sharp move up. And Bitcoin actually started the move a little earlier. In this case, the JPY front ran Bitcoin. And in this case, they're pretty much on the same path. And in this case, JPY front ran Bitcoin, right? Now, this is on the 30-minute chart. This is for you day traders out there, right? This case, Bitcoin front ran JPY. But I think what might matter a little bit more is if we back out and we look at what it looks like on a higher time frame. Okay, so let me get rid of this comparison. And let's see if there is more of a correlation on the daily, the not very high time frame, but the higher time frame, right? So let's add Bitcoin in. Okay, so Bitcoin is the whatever magenta line, if you will. And in this case, the big move down with JPY was more solid for about 5 days before Bitcoin started to move down, right? And then again, let's make some lines here. And then again, right here, a sharp move down on the JPY, and Bitcoin followed about 5 days later. Here they moved around the same time. And there's a bit of divergence here. Like I said, Bitcoin did have its own bit of bullishness right there. And that has to do with just where it was in a technical sense. But you do see JPY following along. But I think you're right now in the very current time, there is a bit of a divergence between the two. And this will happen. Even between correlated assets, you'll see a divergence. But if you look over time, interesting stuff. Might be usable. We'll see about it. Like here, this is a very clear front run, like by, weeks. Now, what you'd have to do to really make this work is to look at all the major pivots and see by how many days they front run, right? Like this one's like almost a 2-week front run. Now, the reason this happens is because there is a correlation between Bitcoin and the NASDAQ. We've talked about that. Okay, so let's do a little bit of backing up. Let's do a little bit of forecasting. JPY is going to want to hold up, pop up, and eventually probably come back down. But I think it's going to go sideways to up for a minute. And that's going to be relative to NASDAQ. Now, NASDAQ does have a lot of bearishness high time frame. It is being held up right now. There's always that chance that it gets held up. But if I were just to look at the algos on this complex, crazy screen that you see right now, what I would expect to see is I'm going to go to the weekly chart. We're going to zoom way out. And this is going to matter to Bitcoin a lot as well. Because I know a lot of people here watch, they want to know what's going on with Bitcoin. But in reality, we're traders. So we're more interested in the NASDAQ. We're more interested in the Euro and the USD because they're far more tradable. Look, we'll get into that in a minute. But I think we're going to see something like this. Now, of course, some trade news could throw this off. But if nothing were to change, which is in this environment, questionable. If not a lot were to change, we might even get a pop up here and a move down and a strong one. That's the NASDAQ, right? So this would give Bitcoin a chance to go sideways for a bit. But there's always surprises in the news right now. Earlier in the week, we heard things like rumors about how Trump is going to maybe loosen up on trade talks or something like that. Like we heard these rumors, okay? And then there was a deal made with Japan and India, and that forced markets up a bit this week. Not a lot compared to what's fallen though, right? It's just a little bit of a holding it from falling. So depending on how severe the news is, I would expect at least a few weeks of sideways, but then down because the high time frame is still very, very bullish. I doubt that we're out of the woods yet if you just look at the charts, if you just look at the algos, right? Now, what does that mean for Bitcoin? Bitcoin having a bullish moment can't make it all the way up here. Now, there's a lot of liquidity sitting at 96,000. And I looked at that numerous times. So let's look at what's a little bit very related to liquidity. It's called liquidations. Okay, we're going to go to the Kingfisher.io, and we're going to see what are called liquidity nodes, or liquidations, I mean to say. And this is where you look at the leverage markets and you see where people are positioned, right? And you see where their liquidations are positioned. And I can't seem to blow this chart up. The liquidity map. You're making things difficult. Here's the liquidity map. Usually you can, here you go. All right, there it is. It's just off to the side here. Okay. Let's go ahead to all leverage, Bitcoin on Binance. These across exchanges, it's pretty common, similar. Now, there's been a lot of liquidity for around 83 and it's moved up. So these liquidations are people who are long and their trades liquidate between 85 and 84.5. So that's an area where if there is a reversal, price would go down there. Now that can change, right? That can change. So let's take a look at what that looks like right now, though. Let's get rid of some of these markings. And let's do this. And let's do that. Okay, so 84 to 85, we're going to zoom in a little bit, go down to the daily chart. And we're just going to put a box in that area. And this is where price is going to want to go if there is a strong move down. And it makes an awful lot of sense too, because there are order blocks in that area as well, right? So right there, we're going to mark that yellow. Okay, so price, if it reverses, and it very well could, because it looks like it's about to right now, could head down there. Now, algo-wise, you have a fair amount of bullishness left, and a lot. There's a fair amount of bullishness left. So I don't think price is ready to capitulate for Bitcoin. Like I said, it had its own brand of bullishness lately. So just based on the algos, I think we're going to see, let's see here. We had a strong move up and there is liquidity above price. Let's take a look at that. There's a liquidation up at 94 because a lot of people went short right after that little peak. So 94,000 price would want to get pushed up in that direction because that's what happens on these exchanges. You have all these liquidations up in that area. So around 94, right about here, price might jump up and grab that. Okay, so these are local liquidity areas. This is liquidity that's nearby. And again, I know that there's a fair amount of bullishness left in the chart. I think though it's gonna look, and it's hard to say right now. There's very much like decision mode and all this stuff. The price is needing to figure out where it wants to go. But I think the most likely look right now in the short term is maybe like some sideways action, maybe even a bit down to catch some, to catch a little liquidity. It might only go to right here, or it might even make its way down here and then pop up and grab this here. And that might happen by the end of the week, right? So that's what I think will happen with Bitcoin. Now the NASDAQ, we got to take a brief look at that because that's going to affect Bitcoin, right? NASDAQ goes up right now, Bitcoin goes up. You'll notice the charts are very similar on the low time frame. If I were to impose Bitcoin over this chart, you will see pretty similar. Bitcoin does have its own brand of bullishness right now, but if I were to go ahead and stretch these out, you'll see some similarities in the near term, in the short term, especially. Very, very similar. So without Bitcoin's most recent supercharge, because it was overextended to the downside, Bitcoin took a harder hit than a lot of stuff. And whenever you get overextension, you get a rebound, right? However, very similar look to NASDAQ, but the NASDAQ high time frame is a lot more bearish than Bitcoin is. And it's not as bullish as Bitcoin is. And I know we already looked at NASDAQ, but I think what we're going to see outside of any surprises or Trumpian news or anything like that, it's going to have a hard time breaking above 19,000. But what we might see is a bull trap. So either I think it's just going to keep struggling, hanging out here, maybe a pop up, maybe not, and it's going to head down. But that's outside of surprises, and that's going through Sunday. The market's not really open on, over the weekend. So a lot of things can happen over the weekend. If I were just to look at what I think is going to happen today with the NASDAQ, The news already out, and it was a nothing burger with the unemployment. This high time frame is very bearish. I think it's just going to grind sideways. And let's see here. I mean, sideways to up. You're going to get a grind today. Maybe good for the scalpers. It's hard to say. I don't know if there's any other news. I don't think there's any other news out today. Let's see, Thursday. No red letter stuff. And down under is on a bank holiday, and not that really affects too many things. So NASDAQ, I expect to see kind of some sideways grind up, maybe sideways grind up, or sideways and then like, maybe grind down and then up, or, I don't think it's going to be terribly eventful. So that's, we spent a few extra minutes here. What we're going to do now is hop over to the private live lab, because right now in the Forex market, it is a scalper's paradise, right? And so I got a couple scalpers in there, and there's, ways to make this all work for whatever trading style you have, by the way. It's not strictly for scalpers. It's just that right now it's a scalper's paradise. It is what it is. And what we do is either, whether you're a swing trader, which is somebody who gets into a position, and then gets back out pretty quickly, or whether you are somebody who, not pretty quickly, let's see, swing traders in for like a day or two, maybe 3. Day traders are in for minutes to hours. Doesn't matter which one of those you are. We help you develop a method to predict where price is going to go. And if you can predict where price is going to go, you can pull money out of these markets. So first of all, go to the link in the description right there, right? Get your free algo, get your updates. We're going to do workshops. I'm going to trade live for about 3 days, sometime this quarter. And when I do that, you'll be able to just watch me do it. It is not exciting, right? But what I'll do is I will pick a method of trading, and we'll just trade. And whether, we'll see if it works or not, right? Because, not every trade wins. And you're going to see what it's like to trade. You're going to see what it is to, to look at the markets for a few hours, to set up your trades. I might take a swing trading kind of stance on that, because most people, that's what they want to do, is they want to swing trade. But then again, if you're able to sit with me for 3 hours, you could probably day trade. So I'll have to consider how it's going to work. Either way, give us your email. It doesn't have to be a real first name. You can call yourself John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, whatever you want. We'll send that off to you. We'll send you off like, hey, this is when it's going to be. We'll send you the weekly update, that kind of thing like that. So again, thank you all for watching. We're going to hopefully see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. V the Gorilla says he is back by tomorrow. So he had some personal things to handle, and then his computer was on the fritz, which is like murder for guys like us. But he said he got it fixed, actually. I thought he was going to have to get a new machine when he first talked about it. So V the Gorilla should be back tomorrow. He said he will be. Things change pretty quickly oftentimes in our space. Meantime, see you tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. EST sharp. And never forget,
join us or die.
Just kidding. You're not going to die. No. Alan Rickman's just messing with you. We love you. We'll see you next time.